One day, when I was 19 years old, I was driving on the south side of Chicago, listening to WHBK 88.5 FM, when I heard a single note that changed my life. I didn't know who I was listening to or what it was, but I felt like a bell that had been rung, and I pulled my car over and listened with rapt attention. When the DJ came on the air to tell me what I had heard, he said it was master sitar player Nikhil Banerjee. I spent the rest of my years in college trying to understand what had happened that day. I studied the anthropology of music, the physics of sound, music theory, and I followed the through lines wherever they led. I studied Indian classical music, the music of Sufis, the rich and varied musics of the African continent, and ended up writing a thesis paper on the spiritual practices of improvising musicians. I discovered there was really two schools of thought that described what I had experienced that day. The first said what I experienced was purely physiological, a neurochemical reaction, that the sitar's overtone series had stimulated my auditory cortex in a novel way, leading my body to release dopamine and oxytocin, that the chills I felt were just a vestigial mammalian response, and that ultimately any meaning I applied to it was illusory. The other school of thought didn't deny any of the physical realities, but it placed them in a broader context, a context that showed that music is one of our oldest human social and religious rituals. Evidence of human music making dates back before agriculture, before the written word, before civilization as we know it. This placed musicians not just as producers of sound, but as storytellers, as griots and shamans, as facilitators of ritual, and listeners not just as passive recipients, but as active participants in that ritual. It was not just about sound, but about creation, and the creator and the collective coming together to experience something greater than themselves. So as I kept studying this and trying to understand it, what I came to understand was that music was deeply intertwined with what makes us human. And in fact, that materialist worldview that music was just sound was incomplete at best and misleading at worst. At this very moment, we find ourselves talking about some of these topics about music due to the rise of AI. Proponents of AI say that music is just sound, and that as a result, musicians can be automated. That just by typing a prompt and clicking a button and getting a song, that makes you a musician, and that might be desirable, that might democratize music making. I think that's a conversation with a lot at stake, a conversation with consequences. And I think it's worth talking about whether that's something we really want or if it's something we're being sold. Is it something that's going to lead to human flourishing, or is it leading us off a cultural cliff? Now, before you write me off as a Luddite who hates technology, I should tell you that I love computers. I have my whole life. Ever since I was a child, I taught myself to program. I spent a lot of my career as a professional software developer, and I've always adopted cutting-edge technologies, whether in my professional life or in my creative work as a musician. But I've seen time and time again that technology on its own isn't good or bad. It matters how it's used. And AI really is no different. I'm not alone in being a musician and being pro-technology. Musicians have traditionally been early and enthusiastic adopters of new technology. Whether you look at Herbie Hancock's uses of synthesizers in jazz, or Brian Eno's experiments with generative music, or Imogen Heap's amazing Mimu gloves that let her manipulate sound in space, musicians aren't just users of technology, they're often innovators. So the point of this discussion isn't to say that there shouldn't be AI in music, but to say that AI on its own is not music. Because if you think about the history of innovation and the history of technological adoption, we don't always have the best track record. Oftentimes things are sold to us and we adopt them, and then later we look back and it's a little bit of an oopsie moment, right? Maybe we shouldn't have done that. So just for example, in the 20th century we had TV dinners and fast food, thought it was going to make meals easier, and we ended up with empty calories and health issues. Social media promised us more connection, and we got more superficial relationships and information silos. Short-form video was just supposed to be innocent entertainment, and it turns out it's decimating our attention spans. So maybe you should join me in thinking about whether the consequences of AI will be something that we'd look back on and regret as well. Maybe it's not just an innocent change, but something that has consequences for us and for our society. And I think, personally, that music is much more than sound. I think that sound is a vehicle for humans to express themselves, to give us the connection we need, and we need it more than ever. Statistics show that we are more anxious, lonelier, and more depressed than ever. Just one statistic that I could share with you says that depression rates among young adults have more than doubled in the last 8 years. So at exactly the moment when we need that connection, when we need a stronger and more durable cultural fabric, we're being sold something that's going to destroy it. We're being sold the fast food of music, empty calories, and siloed, personalized listening experiences that don't allow us to come together and experience something together. And I think that's something that we should be really, really wary of, and something that we should decide whether we want to do in an intentional way. Now, the proponents of AI are trying to sell this idea that it democratizes music making by letting anyone make it. But at the end of the day, I think that's something that we're being sold, and it's not the reality. It's really about financial control and consolidation. The idea that you can type a prompt, get a song, and call yourself a musician is as silly as saying, I'm going to get in a car, drive 26.2 miles, and call myself a marathon runner. AI sells this illusion that we can skip the journey and claim the destination, but that's a hollow premise. Musicians know, artists know, that art is just as much about the process as it is about the finished result. The meaning is made in the process. And the creative process is not mechanistic. It's not assembly line work to be automated. It's joy work, it's beauty work, it's wisdom work. We need those people who are making that not just because they make a product, but because they're crucial members of a healthy, functioning society. We need those people to help us understand the world around us, to reflect it back to us, to do things that the AI can't. At the end of the day, I'm an optimist. I'm not naive, but I am an optimist, and I believe we will reject that. I believe we will stay with human-made music because it is what nourishes us. We don't want the fast food, we want the real thing, and there's plenty of it right now. There's no reason to replace artists with machines. So I say, let's let the machines do what they can do. Let's see if they can do something to make our lives better. If AI can make a cure for cancer, great, the whole world will benefit. Maybe AI could help think of a more abundant clean energy source. Wonderful. I don't think anyone will object to that. But if we let AI replace musicians, we'll all be worse off. Thank you.